Welcome. I'm your host, Dustin, and joining us today is an Australian writer, director, and producer, Tristan Barr. And we're here to talk about his film Subject and all things found footage. Tristan, how are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh man, it's my pleasure, really. We were just talking before we started this, and just being so thankful for Screenbox for always, giving us a little bit of an early access, as you will, to a lot of the films that are coming out, especially when it comes to the originals and the exclusives and everything. And as soon as I heard there was a found footage film coming out, I was like, I need to watch it. I need to.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I'm the same. It's like Screenbox um, pushing some really cool stuff, and they were very supportive with us when they kind of heard what we were doing early on. They got back to us really quickly and were in full sort of support. So yeah, I mean, we're even talking. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but we're talking to them about a few other films that are
Ooh,
of the found footage genre. So
yes.
there might be more to come, and some pretty cool concepts as well. So I don't know if we should talk about that today, but maybe after subject, maybe after people see
Yeah,
subject, we
for
can
sure.
follow up. Yeah.
For sure. And before we start diving into all the questions, just so everybody knows, it will be going on Screenbox August 22nd. So next week. And I'm really excited for everybody to go and watch this. But before we dive into the film, I always like to kind of bring it back and ask any kind of guests that come on here of where did it kind of all start? Where did filmmaking or writing or directing or even acting, where did all that kind of start to happen in your life? Like what sparked it?
It's a good question. I actually I had a handy cam when I was very young, and I think my parents got it to me because they were going through a divorce, and they probably wanted
Oh,
me
yeah.
to have something to do. So it's probably like some deep seated fucked up like emotional stuff that I don't really know. But no, no. Anyway, I played with this handy cam with my brother for all through my kind of informative years. And we would just cut sort of videos together that, were us basically saving the world, or then we went once we found the horror genre, we had this like creepy under our house in
Oh,
where I'm
yeah.
from. Yeah, we have this in where I'm from here in Queensland. It's very warm, and they have these houses built up on stilts, and under the house is always like quite creepy, and so we played a lot of kind of like horror sort of style films of Freddy and Jason,
Of course, you
and
have
with
to.
yeah,
You have to include them. You have to.
exactly. So that's kind of where it all sort of stemmed from. And I was lucky enough to kind of you know go into a career of it. I went to like acting school, and my parents, they wanted me to become something kind of reputable, and I decided no, I'll go into the entertainment industry, and just and so like I 10 years later or so, I've got a couple of films that are coming out, and yeah, I'm just excited to kind of keep making stuff now. It's like I've kind of got the bug, so lots going on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was quickly going through your IMDb too, and just seeing that you had a lot of producer credits on there, and seeing that you directed Subject, and looking at everything else that's on like your resume, it's nothing like this at all. So like, did you always want to do like actual like horror like professionally? Was that always an ambition of yours?
Actually, I had wanted to do it, but I thought. I thought it was really hard to get like money from it,
Mm.
and then sort of um, uh, like look, I still haven't got any money from it. Like I'm still kind of trying. You know, like we shot this film on like under $20,000.
Oh,
So, um,
wow. Wow.
yeah. So we really like pulled a lot of favors, and just like it was a whole bunch of our friends that really kind of came together to create it. And the like the thought was that, oh, I would kind of go into kind of directing more kind of thriller, sort of like action sort of style stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, then I basically had an opportunity where it was like, oh, you can create this like, small film, and we've got this script. And it came through actually an American writer, Vincent Bayfy, um, who's a legend, and he had written this like pretty much like a 90-page monologue from this guy that was, trapped in this kind of government
Yeah.
facility. And I was like, this is crazy, and like, but I kind of want to do it, and I just want the challenge of it. And
Uh,
so yeah, we kind of set off with $20,000 and this crazy script, and just said, let's go for it. Let's try and like create something cool here. So that's where Subject kind of came about.
oh, that's awesome. And you can really feel the love, and like you're saying that you shot this like really low, but that's the thing with horror. It could be like you could throw $100 into it, and it could come out looking amazing. Like the way the cameras are in here, and like bouncing between what happened in the past, in the present, or like all the this weird psychological things. Like I did a non-spoiler review, and I put it out yesterday, and it was like actually thinking about it, and watching it again right before we did this interview. um it really makes me think, what is reality and what's not? Is like what's going on really happening to Will? Is it all in Will's head? And I love that. And you saying you shot it for such like low amount of money, like just that concept alone of you asking yourself like what's real, what's not real, is amazing. You guys nailed it right out of the park, especially when it comes to found footage. Great.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for saying that. And that's that's actually the thing that freaks me out the most of the whole idea of what is kind of our reality. And what, because we have all these things that we're kind of brought up to believe.
Yeah.
And then suddenly actually recently we're seeing all these like, you know um these kind of more sort of detailed approach, or scientific approach to kind of like detailing UFOs and all
Yeah.
these sorts of things in our world. And it's like, holy shit, like there might be some kind of stuff we don't really know how to explain. And I suppose that's kind of where the monster came from, in Subject. Is it is the epitome of our worst fears, manifested into a monster. And so that was an interesting one, because like we just thought, sometimes it's great just to not show a monster, and like you'll get to like 90 minutes or something into a movie, and then they'll finally show the monster, and
Yeah.
it's like a letdown. When you see that, and it's like
Yeah, I
bad
know exactly what you're
CGI or
talking
something.
about.
Yeah. So we were very cognizant not to do that, and to just be like, um, wanting to have like this weird kind of Lynchian creature that kind of he had to exist with, and wanted it to be like more unsettling than sort of like, jump scary.
Yeah.
And so that was our approach. And so we had an actor basically like you know uh get all the makeup on every day, and the actors just kind of existed together in these kind of couple of rooms that you see in the film. And they literally drove each other insane. So that was an interesting thing to watch on set.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. And I wanted to bring up the set. Was this something you guys built, or was it already in like an existing building and you just kind of like just put up walls or whatnot? Because the room, they're small, but it feels big. And like as the movie progresses and you see him like, you know, tallying all the days he's been there and seeing how crazy and insane like Will is getting, I was really intrigued and wanted to know like how did the design come for the rooms?
Yeah, great question. It was actually built by we were super lucky that one of our executive producer, he also owns a production like a building company.
Oh, okay.
And so we basically hired out a warehouse, and we built a couple of we needed to kind of the layout of the construction needed to be a specific way, and so they basically built it within kind of a week, and so that we could kind of destroy the walls and you know, that was a tricky thing, was like where to place all the cameras like inside the set, because it's kind of a mixture between like surveillance camera footage and like found footage,
Yeah.
um, and so that was really tricky because you kind of need the camera to be in a place where it tells the story, but it also feels kind of voyeuristic. Um, and that was, yeah, really tricky. So basically we designed the rooms, like each specific room had its own design. So like the bedroom is very much like inspired by Old Boy, the Korean film.
Okay.
And then we had kind of uh, the more kind of scientific questioning room was something that um, we talked about, for a long time to see what that design would be, and essentially we just thought, let's just keep it really bare, so it's just literally the performance of the actor.
Yeah.
And we had these kind of cool like fluoro lightings like you have in your studio there.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
and
awesome.
that's all. Yeah, it's amazing what those kind of practical lights can just do for an audience's kind of point of view or perspective on a scene. The colors that we kind of go through. So yeah, that's kind of what happened with the design.
Awesome. Because it's very much set up like an interrogation room too, where like you got the window there and you're looking into this essentially a void. You barely see anything in there. You got a light and you can see like when the creature starts going in there, and then later on like when he goes over there and you see things and you're like, what the hell's going on? But like I love the design, and the acting from everybody's part is great, including yourself. So I wanted to touch on that as well. How was it balancing directing and acting in this?
Well, I actually wasn't supposed to be in the film. And so we had another actor called Dustin Clare, who is a bigger Australian actor. And he was in, if any of the fans out there, for the Wolf Creek series.
Oh, yes.
So he's the lead detective in that. And then unfortunately, his wife was pregnant at the time. She got sick, and
Oh, no.
he basically had to pull out the day before we started shooting. Um, so we quickly tried to scramble and get another actor into the role, but luckily, the actor who I cast as Willem, Stephen Phillips, he was he was actually a movement coach in drama school and like
Oh,
acting
wow.
school, and so that's how I knew him. And he basically just said, "Look, I know it's a lot of dialogue, but I'll help you get through it. We'll kind of just work this together." and he basically helped me kind of learn the lines like on set whilst I was directing, and so I had to make some really quick choices, and it was lucky because I wanted less of the focus to be on that Dalesky character, and for it to just be like this weird, quirky guy that just kind of comes in every so often and
Yeah.
basically fucks with the main character. And so it kind of worked out for the best, because I suppose in a way, like, you know, filmmaker wise, that's kind of what we do anyway. We kind of like are fucking around with our
Yeah.
subjects all the time. So in a weird way, it's kind of meta in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say too, with this essentially taking place in America, your American accents are on par.
That's
Great,
great.
great. Like
Terrific.
after I found I got the email saying this was an Australian film, but I was watching, I was like, is this from Australia? There's no way. These guys, they're American. What is going on here, Screenbox? But no, it's really cool, and that's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
That's good. That we were concerned about that, but Steve Phillips, he's done a lot of American film and TV as well. So he's just like so on it with the accent, and look, he's so committed as an actor that you know, he actually developed a tick, like a psychological kind of tick as he was kind of going through the process. Like that was one, because we'd done a lot of acting together in the past, and that was one time I was like, holy shit, man, like this film is really getting to you, because, you know, if you start like kind of, you know, skitzing out with your head, it's like, holy shit, this is actually getting to you. And so he had some, like, he was telling me he was having some crazy nightmares about the creature and all sorts of stuff.
Seeping into his real life.
Yeah, so that it was good. Like, we literally shot it in 10 days, and it was good because, like, once we got out of that location, it was so good for us all mentally, because I think we were all going a bit like insane in these kind of couple of rooms, spending, you know, whatever the shoot days were, 12, 14 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
In like these tiny rooms. So yeah, it drove us insane as well. So hopefully that comes across on screen a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, it does. It does. And I don't want to spoil too much of this, because this is going to be coming out before the movie comes out. But yeah, just seeing how he's just going down this road, and like you see his energy be depleted, and he even like kind of talks about like why he thinks that's happening, is really, really cool. And you can even see like the makeup that was on him, like as like time progresses, and seeing him like turn even into more of like a shell of himself, and like super dehydrated. You can tell he's eating an egg a day. Like, what the hell? Like, you get an egg. That is it. And I thought that was so funny. I'm like, you have this guy locked in this government facility so that way he doesn't go to prison, and you're only going to feed him an egg. It's like, what the hell? Whose idea was it to just be like, okay, just an egg and that's it, nothing else?
It's actually inspired by Old Boy, in that I think the guy in Old Boy gets like 6 dumplings a day.
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
And so we just thought, what is something? I think the eggs were originally in the script, but we asked Vincent, the writer, if we could just make it a singular egg, because it's just such, like, it's just the saddest thing to have, like, you know, like, imagine going into a cafe and ordering like a single egg. Like, it's just it's so small, you know, it's just like not enough. And I think that was kind of part of the thing. Like, at every angle, we just thought as the filmmakers, like, how do we mess around with this actor with this character? And so, you know, even so far as like the reality stuff, it's like we constantly wanted to just make it seem like the reality that you're kind of presented with, there are holes in it, at every turn.
Yeah.
And there's some gems in there if you watch really closely. If you watch it a few times, like there's more and more of that kind of seeps through. You kind of go, oh, what the hell is that? And then it won't kind of spoil the ending, but like if you remember that scene towards the end where you kind of go into the room and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like there's just kind of like a bucket and mop there, things like
Yeah.
that. It's just yeah.
It's crazy, and like I love what you guys did with this, and I was even saying on my review that I feel like this really brought a new fresh take to found footage, because it's one of those genres. It's like you kind of beat it to death if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. But with this, like what's going on and the atmosphere, the acting, with it being essentially a single location and a solo performance pretty much throughout the whole film, besides like you get like the flashback scenes, which aren't that long, but it's really just focused on Will and whatever the hell's in that other room, is amazing. And I'm really excited for everybody to go and see this. But before you started directing this, did you watch any other found footage films to kind of pull inspiration by how you wanted some shots to look?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I love the found footage kind of genre. But I essentially kind of wanted it to, like you said, I wanted it to kind of be outside that kind of generic found footage movie. So I was actually watching a whole bunch of kind of more cinematic horror films.
Oh,
So
okay.
like I was watching like um, a lot of David Lynch's stuff. I was
Mm,
watching obviously Old Boy, which is a huge reference for us, and Panic Room,
mm.
um, Finch's Panic Room, um, and I think I think we go into, there's a couple of sequences where we go into the sort of Blair Witch thing, and like there kind of is a nod of the cap to those sorts of movies at
Yeah.
times, paranormal or anything like that. But I think essentially we wanted to feel like more weird, and my inspiration was essentially like where you see those in actually in Jurassic Park, where they're on the it's Newman from Seinfeld. I can't remember the actor's name, but basically he's on a computer, and then there's like it's like MS DOS, it's like Windows
Yeah.
95, and like this little character kind of
Yeah.
comes up on
Yep.
screen mocking you. Like basically my inspiration for the film was kind of that, of just like little silly kind of gifts that happen, you know, um, in kind of those, earlier computers where you had like the hard disk drives and things
Yeah.
like that. Like that was kind of like a big thing for me to kind of like don't go into something that has like some preconceived ideas, but just kind of like take inspiration from kind of weird sort of kind of design elements. And so you see, basically I thought, what if we were just all kind of in an experiment, and there was a guy on a MS-DOS style computer just clicking on the files that are kind of viewing us. That's kind of where it all came from for me. Because I just think that's so weird, like that voyeuristic thing, and probably is something that did occur, in
Oh
those kind of
yeah.
MK Ultra sort of like experiments where governments kind of like look at things. And I just think that's such a weird thing to think about, like, the technology being back then, and the weird shit that would have occurred. And it also kind of then, for all those trippers out there that might be your listeners.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole LSD thing is also really interesting because you could just kind of see this as like some sort of, you know, terrible trip as well. You
Yeah,
know?
that was definitely
Yeah.
something I was pulling from that as well. Is like, oh, maybe he's just like on a really bad trip, and this is what it looks like inside his mind, you know, being just trapped here with this thing. But then there's so many other things that that happen throughout this film that keep making you question, oh wait, no, what I was thinking before is not what's happening. And then something else will happen and you go back and think, oh yeah, that is what is happening. I love films that make me think, and this is definitely one of them. And after watching it twice, I'm still scratching my head like, what is actually happening in this film? I love that. And there's for anybody who likes, you know, things after the credits, there is a very brief after credit scene. So after you watch this, make sure you go all the way through. It's very, very small, but it's actually kind of funny too. Your dialogue is really funny. We need more men. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh man, appreciate that so much that you enjoyed it. And yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, make sure you stick around for that after credit scene. Yeah.
Yes. It makes me want more. I would love to see like more subject movies with different people from other things that happen in life. Because you see, you know, kind of Will be a drug addict. Like he's doing that, but he's also he has a family, and then like, you know, things happen to the family, which, you know, makes him spiral. And like as a father, it hit me really, really hard at you know what I'm talking about. Like I was like, are you kidding me? Like you don't really see it, but just knowing that that's what happened, I'm like, why'd you do that to me? Why? Come on, man. I want to enjoy my horror, not cry at my horror.
Totally like that. I mean, that was a big thing. It was a big point in the initial script. And there was so much kind of debate about how we kind of go about that. And it's hard to kind of speak about it without actually like divulging
Yeah. People
the
will know
reveal.
exactly
But
what we're talking about as soon as they watch it too, and they'll be messaging you and be like,
totally,
"Tristan, why'd you do this?" And we'll go
yeah,
find Vincent too and be like, "Why'd you do this? Why'd you write this?"
exactly, and it's so messed up, isn't it? Like that stuff is, I mean, it's the worst possible thing you can imagine. And I think I think as well, like what essentially, you know, to go into those deep sort of dark places, is that the the film in a way is like about the cyclic behaviors that kind of happen through everyone's lives. And
Yeah,
so, you know, to not fully go there, you know, it could have, you know, yeah. So we decided that had to be in there.
rightfully
And
so.
there, yeah, and unfortunately, like, I mean, there was stuff about going even further with that, but we didn't kind of want to make it unwatchable, you know, like something that was too. So it's kind of in there, but you know, in some of the screenings, because we played at Chattanooga and
Oh,
at
nice. I
Monster
didn't know
Fest
that.
here. Yeah. So there's, and it's actually playing at Popcorn Frights at the moment.
Oh, I think I did see that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so, you know, like, it's some people didn't quite fully comprehend that, but it was funny. A lot of parents knew exactly, you know, like they were so caught onto it. So, yeah, it's a little kind of thing in there that I'm sorry we had to do that too, man.
Hey, you know, it's all good. Like, that's what makes, you know, a good movie is when it makes you go through all these twists and turns, and you think you're at the worst, and you're not, and then something else tops it. It's great, and this is why I love movies and even books to some extent, but movies has really taken over my life. And to see, you know, someone really make you go through all these changes, and having a great script, no matter the amount of money, and having great people part of a cast, and really having one person essentially carry the whole movie is really really cool. And that's it's great to see that anybody can really go ahead and do this.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we were so daunted at the fact like we of the amount of money we had, but once you get like a small crew of people that are really supportive and kind of that's the beauty of the horror genre. Is like more money doesn't mean more scary or more creepy.
It's so
It kind of
true.
like in a lot of ways, it's like that's why like some of our best, most, kind of awarded or like, our favorite films are stuff that was shot like super low budget, and people had to kind of like find the um, innovation in those kind of
Exactly.
films. So which is cool. Like I love that, and I mean we're gonna keep doing that, and I think your idea of subject of other people kind of in the room and seeing where their lives kind of been. I mean, I know Vincent Beefy, the writer, has already got kind of a second concept for that.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, which is really cool. So hopefully people, I mean, yeah, there is obviously, as you know, there's like an ending which allows for kind of certain things to kind of continue happening. So um, yeah, we definitely are interested in that. If any of the fans out there that kind of come across the film want to definitely, you know, make sure Screenbox know about it, because we'll shoot another one
Hell yeah.
anytime at the drop of a hat. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I want to see that right now. So I want to talk about the creature design a little bit. Was there an inspiration that you drew from for that, or like was there a storyboard? Did someone draw this up beforehand? You're like, hey, what do you think about this design, or did you just kind of let someone go ham on it and be like, whatever you think is going to be creepy, you do it?
Yeah, pretty much. We knew that the monster needed to basically evolve over time,
I like
and
that
so
aspect too. Was really really cool. It's kind of subtle, but you
yeah,
notice it, like especially after the second watch, you see it kind of go through these stages, which I think is really really cool.
that's right. And like part of that is that the monsters kind of reminiscent of certain characters at certain times as well of the film, and so um, yeah, that was like really cool to kind of go through. And what I loved about our kind of character design and makeup artists is that um, they they had such a low budget to achieve what they achieved, and so um, you know, basically they had all these kind of small little kind of tricks that you know uh, makeup artists who are kind of doing big budget films would be, they'd be spending thousands of dollars a day to kind of get
Yeah.
these sort of effects, but they had these kind of little tricks. And I mean the poor actor had to sit in the chair for like 3 or 4 hours a day at least, to kind of
Oh
get there.
my
Yeah,
god.
it's absolutely insane. And so and so they had really long days, unfortunately, and but they, the design itself, actually, if you see it, like the monster kind of gets in a weird way more beautiful throughout the film.
Yeah.
So he or she has kind of more kind of sparkly things that start to appear on the character's face, on the monster's face, um, and that was kind of really cool and super bold from uh, the makeup artist, because they were like working against the kind of make it darker, make it kind of grottier. And so that was a lot of fun. And the actor Joey Lay, who played the monster, he was so bold in all of his choices. He's actually he's actually about 7 foot tall. So
Wow.
he's a giant human being. Yeah, yeah. And so in the first kind of half of the film, we shoot him and he's always like kind of on his knees, or he's like, we kind of try and make it so that he looks a lot smaller. And then
Yeah.
as he grows, we just kind of get him to like be his full height, his full length, and he's just a giant of a human. Which, so all of that kind of practical stuff at the end, where he just looks ginormous. I mean, he is in real life. So yeah.
Yeah, you guys and anybody listening to this, you go on Bloody Disgusting right now, and they have the write up on this, and you see that one still of him holding Will against the wall, and that is very terrifying, because seeing how tall he is, and knowing that that's how tall he actually is, and it wasn't like stilts or anything like involved, and his movements around everything is like, I think this guy would be like a Cirque du Soleil actor or something, with how much of like a snake he really was like acting like. It was, oh my god, it's haunting. And the first time you see like the creature up front is it takes a lot for me to like want to have to pause a movie and like look behind me, but like this has been the year of me having to pause horror films and look behind me and see if there's something there. And that's a feeling that I'm always like looking for when I'm watching a horror film, because I've seen so many, been so desensitized to so many things, and seeing a fresh take on found footage and all these other things, and seeing a really creepy creature, it was really, really cool and a great experience, and I can't wait to see everybody's reactions when they see this.
Oh man, that's the best thing I could ever hope for. Like, you made my day to say that. Like, I'm the same. Like, it takes a lot for me to kind of pause something and like get freaked out in
Yeah.
your own home. But I love that. That's so good. That makes me like super happy that happened to you.
Yeah, it did. Like when he's the part when it's on the bed and it's, I was like, I can't do this, because the way the eyes are like lit up and everything else on the face, like great job with the creature design. And I'm calling this film a found footage creature feature psychological thriller horror movie. Because there's so many things that happen in this film that you go through all of those stages, and that's a great feat. Like, damn. What a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Oh man, that's I'm so grateful for you to say that. That's so lovely. And I look, I think you're right. Like, it is all of those things all at once, um and yeah, I mean, obviously there's kind of mystery elements to it as well,
Yeah, for sure.
and so it's just kind of like everything. So I appreciate that, and because sometimes I think when it could have just been a whole mismatch of crap that we shot, that because like when you go into something so ambitious, it just
Yeah.
you don't know if it's going to work or not. And so yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Thank you so much for saying that.
I mean, thank you to the team and yourself and Vincent for making a really entertaining film, and for it to going on to my favorite streaming service, since it's kind of had its resurgence and going through the changes and everything. Like what Cineverse and Screenbox are picking out for their films, like they are nailing everything. And one thing I really like about this service is how many foreign films are on here, including your own. And I wanted to touch on that because, Talk to Me is out right now, and that's also an Australian film. And I was hearing an interview with Danny and Michael when they were talking about how when an Australian movie is made, it doesn't really get the reach that that everybody's hoping for. It's either stuck there or it only goes to Europe or like some select spots. And for that to be a worldwide release, I wanted to ask you, how does it feel to you essentially having the same thing but on a streaming service?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, Talk to Me is like amazing. If you haven't seen it in cinemas, like go check it out. It's like
For sure, yeah.
I'm so proud of those guys. Like I think that like they you know that they've killed it, and they are yeah, they're super talented, and you know they obviously um you know have an amazing storytelling ability, and so yeah, definitely in Australia they you know a lot of the films that kind of come out here, you know, don't get released so well in the States or you know, for the rest of the world, and it's something to do with, you know, the types of films that are kind of like being funded here, and like the, you know, it's hard to find filmmakers that have like really sort of crazy unique sort of but also marketable perspective. So a
Sure.
lot of our a lot of our kind of government agencies you know are not kind of funding the right sorts of content that are going to kind of hit the rest of the world. But I mean, Talk to Me was a perfect example where they had a good size budget that they were able to kind of, you know, get funding here from Australia, but also it's like a hit overseas, which is, you
Yeah,
know,
getting
that's
A24.
amazing.
That's big. It's big.
It's huge. Yeah, yeah, it's so good. And so having having Subject released by Screenbox, and you know, with Cineverse behind them and Bloody Disgusting as well, is like I'm so ecstatic to just like, you know, to have that you know, and those that support behind us, because you're right in that, you know, they are creating some really cool stuff, and we knew that like when they kind of told us like what they've got coming up, and when, you
Yeah.
know, when we were negotiating the deal, I was like, I don't care, you know, what sort of money they give us, we just need to partner with these guys. And luckily they are super, you know, they're super generous as well, and so, you know, it was an amazing deal and an amazing kind of collaboration. I just couldn't be like, I couldn't be happier, man. That you know, we come from you know, towns of like people that less than 1 million people, you know, here in our
Yeah.
certain cities, and so it's like amazing that suddenly like it goes on a streaming service, and which has the reach of like hundreds of millions of people. It's like it's just mind blowing, and I can't believe that, you know, I get to talk with people like you who just like love horror
Oh yeah.
you know, all about it. So yeah, man, super grateful for having the opportunity that Screenbox have given us, and Cineverse, and Bloody Disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to pick you guys up, and I'm eagerly awaiting what is next. So I have a few fun questions to ask. That's pretty much all the things I wanted to touch on the film. Without going into spoilers, we can always do that another time. You
Yeah.
said that you grew up, you know, watching horror or making horror movies with your brother. Um, is there a favorite horror movie of yours that you go to quite often, or that you find most interesting?
Oh man, that is the hardest question to
I
ask.
know.
But you know, like so I go in phases, and I'm shooting another film in October this year.
Oh,
Um
nice.
and yeah, and it's called Dusk, and it's it's a really interesting like concept in that basically it's about this guy who's had a curse in his family for generations, and um, he has the abilities that if he saves someone, he's got these kind of healing abilities. If he can save
Oh,
someone, he basically ages 25 years, and then and if he's to de-age, he has to kill someone.
what
And
the?
so it's like, yeah, it's just super
Oh
like
my god.
so basically throughout the film he's kind of aging and de-aging, and he meets this like this woman who he kind of falls in love with. So he kind of needs to kind of keep up the facade of his age as well. And so
Oh
it
yeah.
becomes like kind of this moralistic thing. And so there's a lot of it's super like yeah, it's super interesting that film, but there's like an evil character who's after him at the moment, and basically this evil character is also has kind of a history within his lineage.
Oh, okay.
Basically, he is able to he wants to basically create his own hell on Earth. This particular character, um, and he's written in the script kind of like a Patrick Bateman in American Psycho.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
and I've watched American Psycho probably about 10 times within the last you know I don't know, like week. And so
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Okay.
so so
It's a
so
great
I just
film.
like yeah, that film is kind of just I mean, and I think it's because I'm kind of prepping for another film that, like obviously I love like films like The Exorcist and, all of those kind of like classics. But I've just kind of, because I've been watching that film on repeat, it's just so much in the forefront of my mind. And the thing I'm just finding new things in it every time I watch it. And so, yeah, that the satirical nature of um, what they do with that film, but also mixed with the horror elements, is like
Yeah.
really exciting to me at the moment. So like I'm bringing forward a lot more of that elements, and like you get a bit of that in Subject, where it's kind
Yep.
of satirical at the same time as having the horror. So I love that stuff. That's kind of where my head's at the moment. What about you, man? Like, what? I'm curious. What's your favorite?
Um, First of all, I want to say I'm very intrigued on that film that you just sold to me. I want to watch that as soon as it's done.
Great, great.
So me, I love my slashers, and my favorite horror film it will always be, because it's what really got me into the genre, out of my shell, and to want to dive into watching horror. And everybody who has listened to this show knows is Halloween 1978. I got Michael right up over here and a couple other variations of him, but just what that film did, and for it being an indie film, and seeing this huge resurgence and love for indie horror, much like yours and so many other ones that have been on either on the big screen or going to services. It gives me a vibe. And also with it being set in fall, I love Halloween, I love fall. Yeah, it's the perfect film for me. But of course, I love all kinds of horror, but whenever someone asks me what's my favorite, that's my favorite.
That's such a good choice, man. And actually, this film, because like the American Psycho nature of that the evil character in our film, like there are a few like stalking sequence which you always have to go back to those like
Oh yeah.
classic Halloween, scenes. And look, I think that's such it is so on the money there, like that the way that kind of come about, and even so much as like the music
Mm-hmm.
and just like the ingenuity of it all. Like I just feel like that's such a it's such a good film as well. And I interesting, like to create those sort of iconic horror antagonists now. Like I'm just trying to think if if has there been recent movies that have kind of created that. Because you've obviously we had that big you know sort of wave of those kind of you know evil guys,
Yeah.
in horrors. So yeah, I'm looking. I mean, hopefully, I can create one of those sorts of characters in some point of my career. That would be like the dream.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Tristan, this was a great chat, and I don't want to keep you all morning because you are in Australia. this was great, and being able to really talk about this film that I am now somewhat obsessed with, and I'm going to go watch it again after this to kind of really look at those things you're talking about of little things just off. Like I'm so involved with films that are like that, and to keep asking myself what is going on in this film. And maybe that will be revealed on in later installments. Who knows? Maybe this will be your Halloween franchise. It'll be all subjects, and I'm so ready for anything that's next with you and anybody else. And seriously, thank you to Screenbox for letting this happen and letting everybody go and watch this. This was absolutely awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And we'll definitely get you on to talk about those other movies for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be really cool. Yeah, I'll let you know. Even if you want to kind of film, call in to set or something, or I can kind of we could do like a sort of podcast, during set, which
that would be
cool.
Awesome, man. That would be awesome. Hell yeah. We'll definitely keep in touch for that. Stick around after this because I wanna talk to you about something. But thank you everybody who has been listening to this and watching us. Go watch Subject when it launches on Screenbox August 22nd. It's a great film, especially if you love found footage. I think you're gonna like it because there's a lot of found footage fiends out there, and I'm really excited to see what they see. But thank you, Tristan, and everybody who's been listening and watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.